All right, Jimmy Ott and Paul Stone talking some college football. Let's get right to it, Paul. Let's go to the Big Ten. Michigan 13-46, traveling to College Park, Maryland, Byrd Stadium to take on the Terrapins. How about the Terrapins? Start out 4-0. They're still at that four-win stretch right now. And looking at a couple of freshman quarterbacks in Washington and Underwood for Maryland and Michigan, respected. And Michigan is the one you look at because he was a commitment at LSU for a year and a half, and then Michigan scooped him up and upped the ante for him, and they got him in. But he's kind of been forced into duties here, maybe a little bit early. Only 5 touchdown passes in 7 conference games, including 0 his last 3. Michigan is at 106 out of the 136 in plays per game at 65 and a half plays a game. That's always important in looking at a total, which you are looking at, Paul. You like the under here between the Terrapins and the Wolverines.
Yeah, first of all, Jimmy, looking at Maryland on offense, outside of that true freshman quarterback, and he's a good one, Malik Washington, the Terrapins just don't have a whole lot of weapons on offense. Their leading rusher has 409 yards through 10 games, only 3.7 yards per carry. They have 5 receivers with 32 catches or more, but they really don't have a vertical threat, a guy who can drag an extra defender down the field and open things up underneath and that sort of thing. So I am looking at the total here. Maryland hosting Michigan on Saturday in College Park. Currently, Michigan a 13.5-point favorite with the total of 46. Not that it would guarantee an under, and I am obviously looking at the under here, but I'm banking on Maryland scoring 14 points or fewer. That's kind of what I'm, basing this selection on. And first of all, you look at that Michigan defense, and they are predictably solid. They're always going to be on good on defense there in Ann Arbor. They rank in the top 15, as you might expect, in scoring defense, total defense, and yards per play allowed. So really good, 17.7 points per game allowed, only 4.5 yards per play. So they're, again, very good on defense. Maryland, meanwhile, on offense, they only rank 104th in scoring offense, 99th in total offense. And they've been particularly flat in the last 4 games. And those 4 games, they've averaged 13.3 points per game against the likes of UCLA, Indiana, Rutgers, and Illinois. You look at Michigan's offense on the other hand, they could end up starting a third-string tailback who is a walk-on. Their top guy, Justice Haynes, he's going to miss the last couple of regular season games at least. He won't play against Maryland on Saturday, won't play against Ohio State the following week either due to a foot injury. And then kind of the co-starter and co-leading rusher, Jordan Marshall, he's got a little bit of a bummed up shoulder as well. They've rushed for over 1,700 yards. There's some thought in the Michigan camp that they would like to rest Marshall against Maryland on Saturday, saving for Ohio State. That certainly makes sense. So, again, a chance they'll be starting a third-string tailback. Underwood, as you mentioned, he's probably been rushed into action a little bit as a true freshman. Hadn't been particularly proficient in the passing game, as you might expect, and even more so on the road. In his road starts this year, only 65 of 119, so 54.6% completion rate, 3 interceptions against just 2 touchdown passes on the road, only averaging 6.9 yards per attempt on the road. Looking at this game, you mentioned the pace of play. Both these teams average right around 65 plays a game. So I think it's going to be a shorter game, so to speak. Michigan possibly starting a third-team tailback. Underwood, not that great in the passing game on the road. So I just think a lot of things point towards Michigan just kind of keeping Underwood out of harm's way. Maryland not able to score much on Michigan. I like the under 46, Michigan, Maryland, Saturday in College Park.
Paul, I'll follow up on one of the last things you just said. You're talking about keeping him out of harm's way with Underwood because I had Northwestern plus the points and certainly aided by the 2 interceptions that Underwood threw. So without those interceptions, Northwestern, that game is not nearly as tough. They were down with just over 2 minutes to go when they got the ball at the end because of the points, Northwestern points set up over those those Underwood interceptions. So I'm just wondering with those interceptions, I wonder if the aggression meter comes down a little bit with Underwood and they play it a little bit more safe, knowing that maybe Maryland's going to have a tough time moving the ball on them. So it'd be interesting to watch as they maybe pull back the reins on the freshmen just a little bit in this spot after nearly costing them the game in Evanston or in Wrigley Field last week. Bet Rivers players who place the same game parlay of at least $10 on NFL or NCAA football games will receive an entry into the weekly Squares game. Winning Squares can earn up to a $50 bonus bet per entry. See the Bet Rivers app or website for more details. Let's move on and go to we'll stay in the Big Ten and geographically close from College Park, Maryland to Happy Valley. Let's go to Penn State. And Penn State is an 8.5 point favorite over the Nebraska Huskers. And man, that line just jumps out at me. Nebraska's built for close games. Now we'll throw out their non-Power Four opponents. So I'm sorry, they're nine, and there are nine of the other games. I'm sorry, 8 other games. The average margin of win or loss. And we had that Friday night game, a Thursday and Friday night game in Minneapolis, St. Paul against Minnesota. That was kind of affecting this. But the average margin of win or defeat is exactly 7 points a game. So Penn State is showing some pride in covering 3 or 4, and they are first and goal away in Columbus, Ohio, from a perfect 4-0 against the spread, but all seem to be close as well. So they're playing with a little bit more pride. They were just missed against Indiana. We know about how that game ended with Fernando driving the Indiana Hoosiers and the unbelievable catch in the back of the end zone to come from behind and win at Penn State. But I'm not ready to lay 8.5 here. So Matt Rule, he's one of those coaches that did sign his extension. Some coaches, they have this extension still sitting on their desk, but this is just a team and a coaching staff that's built to play close games. They might not win it, but I'll be surprised. I love the plus 8.5 of the Big Red on the road here with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Paul.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking your point about Nebraska playing a lot of close games. I just looked real quick there, and their last 5 games, Nebraska's last 5 games, the line's been 7.5 or under in all 5. The underdog has covered in all 5, so that kind of goes to the theme of your process there. Looking at this game, first of all, Penn State has obviously been an extremely disappointing season for the Nittany Lions. They begin the season number 2 in the polls and had lost 6 straight games before they traveled to East Lansing this past week. Won at Michigan State 28-10. I would say inarguably that victory at Michigan State, which brings them to 4-6 on the year, is their most significant victory of the year to date. Just hard to believe that. You look at Nebraska, and much like Penn State, Nebraska has lost their starting quarterback, Dylan Raiola, to injury for the season, but their backup, TJ Lafitte, a couple of weeks ago, man, he was quite impressive in that first career start, traveling to UCLA, leading the Cornhuskers to a 28-21 victory over UCLA. In that game, he threw for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns, rushed for another 31 yards. I think it also is a little bit of an advantage and a little bit of a nugget or check mark on Nebraska's side of the ledger in this handicap. The fact that they're off a late season bye not only helps them heal some of those bumps and bruises, but also gives them a little bit of a mental reset. So I like where you're coming from there. Getting more than a touchdown. I think there's some good value there with the Cornhuskers Saturday against Penn State.
Log into your Bet Rivers account each Saturday to receive 2 profit boosts for same game and standard parlays, with the profit boost dependent on the number of legs included. See the Bet Rivers app or website for more details. Let's go from the Big Ten to the SEC and go to Austin, Texas, your alma mater, Paul, and the Arkansas Razorback, the old Southwest Conference matchup here. Now it's not, and talking about Arkansas secured a position in the SEC, which I'm sure they're proud of, but I just one of the teams in the program, especially the football program, I just wonder about their level of talent on their roster that's dipped a little bit because they were the only non-Texas member for the Southwestern Conference every year. So they played so many games in Texas, had such a strong presence that they were able to recruit the state of Texas a lot more because Arkansas in-state prospects are limited. But here we go. Texas Longhorns. I mean, they're 0-5 combined. I'm sorry, Petrino for Arkansas in an interim. He's 0-5 straight up, but 3-2 against the spread. The five losses, a combined 19 points. So 3.8 points a game is the margin of loss in this one. So they are playing close and covering the majority of these games, but not winning them. So maybe playing close to this number again. Texas, by the way, is 1-5 against the spread in conference games. Only cover against Oklahoma with the banged up Mateer in Dallas. So the points seem a little bit high in this one, Paul, and that's what you're leaning to, taking the Hogs plus a 9.
Yeah, oftentimes, Jimmy, I talk about taking a position and it being more of a case of betting against a team than it is betting on a team. And that's pretty much the case here in Saturday's Arkansas Texas game there in Austin. Despite that, I'll start talking about Arkansas. You know, it's somewhat of a dubious distinction, but I don't think anyone would argue that the Razorbacks are the best 2-8 team in the country. Just incredibly close in a lot of their losses. They started the season with a couple of tap ins to get out of the gate 2-0. They have since lost 8 straight games, 7 of those games by single digits, though. So 7 of them by 9 points or fewer, and 5 of those 8 losses by 3 points or fewer. So they've been agonizingly close. Just hadn't been able to get the over the hump. Certainly, those of us who follow college football closely and specifically the SEC, we know that offense is not the problem for the Razorbacks. They are very good on offense, averaging 32 points a game against FBS opponents. It all starts with their dual threat quarterback, 6'6", 240-pound Taylor Green. I think he doesn't get, and it's because of Arkansas's record, but he doesn't get the recognition I think that he deserves as one of the very best dual threat quarterbacks in the country. I mean, this guy is a player. He is a handful. He's thrown for over 2,500 yards this year. He's rushed for another 719. Not many quarterbacks out there with Green's size and his skill set. Texas certainly hadn't faced anybody like Taylor Green to this point in the season. You look at Texas, based on, especially on Tuesday's committee reveal of the rankings, it would appear that their chances of making the 12-team playoff are quite slim at this point, regardless of the outcome of next weekend's game against rival Texas A&M there in Austin. The Longhorns, they pretty much underachieved all season. They started the season, obviously, number 1 in the preseason poll for the first time in school history, and just hadn't played up to that level. They're 2-7-1 against the spread this year. They've only defeated a single Power 4 opponent this year by more than 7 points. And you mentioned that game. That was the victory over Oklahoma there in Dallas in the Red River rivalry. I think Texas probably has one eye on Texas A&M next week. This is not Arkansas's bowl game. This is Arkansas's Super Bowl. Bowl game's not strong enough. A lot of teams, a lot of schools hate the University of Texas, but you could collectively add those schools, and it doesn't equal how much Arkansas hates Texas. The Razorbacks hate the Longhorns. They're going to be all in. I think they're going to bring more energy to the field. I think they're just going to be more vested, might even win the game. But I like Arkansas plus 9 over Texas Saturday at DKR.
And you wonder if Texas is suffering a little bit from they can't control the hype that they get, the preseason ranking, the hype that Arch Manning gets. But it seems like the opponents have a little extra in the tank for them when they play. And here's Arkansas, who despises Texas right before they play their most heated rivalry, one of the most heated rivalries in the country, in Texas A&M. So tough spot again for Texas. And boy, that game just flipped. Kirby Smart, who's known for just out personnelling you, just having guys that are bigger, stronger, and faster, and not doing anything complicated to jeopardize the better roster, the superior roster winning. But right when Texas crept within 4 points, he goes for it on 4th down in his own territory. He goes for it again, long count. Not sure if they were going to snap it or not near midfield on 4th and 5, but they didn't have to. They cashed that in, and then the onside kick. So the next time that Arch Manning got his hands off the ball after that touchdown pass, cut it to 14-10, they're down 18. So Kirby with some game management, a little bit unorthodox for him, but perfectly timed in that game on Saturday night that you were at Sanford Stadium. All right, let's move on here and go to the Big Ten, and it's the Brett Bielema Bowl, huh? Brett Bielema in the Illinois Fighting Illini, traveling to Madison, Wisconsin, to take on his former employer in his first head coaching job in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. Illinois 7.5 and 41 right now at Bet Rivers, and I just think and Bielema. And by the way, when Spurrier left the league, the media went, "Oh man, there goes our quote," and he might not have physically have that appearance. That son of a gun is a great quote. I mean, he comes up with some BS, man. He is pretty doggone funny. So Bielema is I just gotta believe he gonna have a little something extra in the tank for Wisconsin here. Wisconsin, there's no argument here. We I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, our preseason. It's like, wait a minute. Be careful what you ask for. Wisconsin want to try and have this massive offensive style transformation. They want to modernize the offense and go against with everything that the approach and the big linemen running the football, stopping the football, and playing ball control. And that's what brought them out of the doldrums. Before they started doing that under Barry Alvarez, they weren't real good to begin with. But not only did they suffer from the transition issues from modernizing the offense, but it seems like every year their starting quarterback went down with an injury. I mean, one after the next, and no surprise here. And well, you've got to who's it going to be? Is it going to be Carter Smith this week? Is it going to be Williams, who quarterbacked their only win against Washington, both with his legs and with his arm? Whoever it is going to be, and it's expected Smith to be the starter. They have really suffered, barely throwing for over 100 yards a game and averaging just 12 points a game. Not the same here for Illinois. Altmaier, and maybe Illinois has fizzled a little bit since that hot start in that big win at Duke early in the year. And when they went to Bloomington, it seems like they've never recovered. But quietly, they're on their way to an 8-9 win season again in Champaign. Big advantage for Altmaier, an experienced quarterback, third year starter. And 7.5 seems a little bit light because I know Brett Bielema is not going to have his team take this opponent lightly. I'm going to lay the points on the road here with the Illini. I'm under 7.5 ball.
Yeah, I heard a coach, and you've probably heard similar stories. A coach within the past year or so say that recruits and their families, they used to ask about academic programs, postgraduate job opportunities, social life, support systems, just a wide range of different considerations. And now all they really want to know is how much you going to pay my boy? How big is the bag? That's all they're really looking at for the most part. Certainly, one size doesn't fit all. But I agree that that's pretty much the case with a lot of recruits and their families. My point being, Wisconsin's Luke Fickell didn't suddenly forget how to coach. I mean, at Wisconsin, he's been faced with a significant disadvantage in the NIL bidding wars. You mentioned the fact that a couple of years ago they decided to their mantra was running the football, big offensive lineman, the walk-on program, all those different things. And the new landscape of college football, too, pretty much wipes away some of these teams that heavily depended on walk-on. So that's a strike against Wisconsin. But that change of style certainly didn't help. But a couple of weeks back, Fickell gets a vote of confidence from Wisconsin's administration. He gets a pledge of increased investment in terms of NIL. So we'll see what he can do. They're not going to be at the top of the Big Ten in NIL money, but maybe they can at least be competitive. But for now, the Badgers, in my opinion, they simply don't possess the talent to compete in the Big Ten. You mentioned their quarterback struggles. They don't have a quarterback. It'll be interesting. I'm not going to say I know every player on their roster, but how many players will they land on the top three teams of the all-conference team when it's announced here in a couple of weeks? I don't think they have very many all-conference, even third-team all-conference caliber players. They're just not able to compete, in my opinion, with the best and the brightest in the Big Ten. I think along your lines as well, the Bielema factor returning to Wisconsin, got to be Illinois or nothing Saturday there in Madison.
All right, Paul, let's go to your next one. You're looking to the American, and we've kind of been on the right side of these games recently. And last week, I tailed you with the Pirates in East Carolina, and they win that one in cover for us. So a nice one there. But it looks like you're going to jump to the don'ts here and play the UTSA Roadrunners in Texas San Antonio. We're talking. It's college football. Home in the home field advantage means a lot. There's no doubt. But the home and away splits are extreme here for the Roadrunners, and it's not just this season. And the last time we saw them at home was on that Thursday night game as a 6-point dog. They routed Tulane 48-26. Same Green Wave, who is the playoff starts today. They're in the college football playoff, ranked at number 24. Catching points at home. Right now, the line at Bet Rivers, the Pirates are road favorite, 2.5, 62.5.
Yeah, I really like the way this one sets up for Texas San Antonio, Jimmy. Um, East Carolina, first of all, we were on them last week. They're off that 31-27 victory over Memphis in Greenville. They scored the game-winning touchdown with 68 seconds to go, so they win it late. Meanwhile, UTSA only leading 7-0 at Charlotte. They rally in the second half, kind of coast to a 28-7 victory over the 49ers. We sometimes talk about college football teams, and you brought it up, that have that distinct home road dichotomy. And UTSA, man, they certainly qualify since the beginning of the 2024 season. And we'll first of all talk about straight up. They're since the beginning of last season, 9-1 straight up at the Alamo Dome, 2-10 straight up on the road. Certainly, they've played some good non-conference teams like Texas A&M. They have played a higher caliber of competition, so that accounts for some of it, but not all of it. There is something to it. You look at their against the spread performance at home in those 10 games. At home, 8-2 against the spread, 3-9 against the spread on the road the last two seasons. So they're a different team there in the friendly confines without question. Their junior quarterback, Owen McCowan, he has really played. He's the son of former NFL quarterback Josh McCown. He has really played well at home, especially looking at the last three games against Incarnate Word, Rice, and then the game that you mentioned, Tulane. 76 of 90 he's completed in those three games. That's a cool 84%. That's pretty good. 849 yards. And that game against Tulane, where they did pull the upset as a 6-point home underdog, he didn't hardly miss. 31 of 33 for 370 yards, 4 touchdowns against no interceptions. So really was on his game. He was a marksman. I think he obviously enjoys playing there. So it's been home sweet home indeed this season for the Roadrunners. You look at their performance since late rather, in 2023, just giving a little more information. UTSA 10-2 against the spread overall at home in their last 12. And then Jeff Traylor, their head coach, since taking over the helm of the Texas San Antonio football program at the beginning of the 2020 season as a home dog at the Alamo Dome, Traylor 7-1 against the spread. I think he takes it to 8-1 against the spread. UTSA wins outright Saturday over East Carolina.
31-33. He couldn't miss that night against Tulane. I mean, that was unbelievable, and well in double digits for yards per attempt, 4 TDs and no interceptions. About as perfect as you can have for a passing night for McCown. Let's wrap it up with one more pick, and we'll go to the team. We're talking about home and away splits. Well, I introduce you to the BYU Cougars because they're pretty severe, home and away as well. And again, I like them to bounce back against Texas Tech. I am not going to hold it against anybody if they can't beat Texas Tech in Lubbock or get thrown around a little bit in Lubbock by the Red Raiders. They are legit. They got a shot to make a run in the college football playoff, not just to get there and maybe win a game. BYU, though, this is their sixth and final road game of the season, and I'm just ready for this team. They handle TCU easily. What a short. Boy, I'm still trying to get over that number. It was a little bit short. Maybe recency bias. They look so bad in a high-profile game with game day being it in Lubbock and the whole shebang there. But I just think that this young team, and specifically this young quarterback in Bear Bachmeier, and everybody loves him. He wears the 47. He apologized for sliding one time. He's just such a tough football player that was thrown into the position of quarterback a little bit early because Retzlaff he departed from Provo to Uptown New Orleans. and the kosher Cajun now they call him down at Tulane with Retzlaff, but to throw him into where Bachmeyer was thrown into this. But he was not the best passer on the road. You couldn't say that in that game in Ames, man. They fell behind double digits, and he had to throw for over 300 yards to rally them. They flipped a double-digit deficit into a double-digit win there. I just think this quarterback is just getting a little bit more mature deep into the season and should be able to handle this Cincinnati team a little bit more. Speaking of Cincinnati, their defense, the last two games, you wonder if there's signs of them wearing down. 37 and a half points a game, 480 yards per game in their last two games. So I think BYU maturing the travel situation here, they'll be less phased and certainly not going to penalize them too bad for getting pushed around in Lubbock. Give me BYU in a short number on the road, -2.5 at Cincinnati, Paul.
Yeah, Bear Bachmeyer began the year, this calendar year, 2025, as a member of the Stanford Cardinal. Their head coach, Troy Taylor, gets let go due to some allegations of mistreating employees, and he makes the move to BYU. And, no slight to Jake Resloff, but I think Bear Bachmeyer at this point is an improvement. Um, this guy's
Yeah.
just he's the heartbeat of the team. A quarterback like that who plays so physical, who plays, a lot of guys, think quarterbacks run out of bounds and they slide and all that. And this is a guy who plays more like a linebacker or a tight end than most quarterbacks. So I think that garners the respect of his teammates and makes them go even a step further for the quarterback. And one of their leaders is a true freshman. The Cincinnati team that they're traveling to the Queen City on Saturday. I really liked them a couple of weeks, up to a couple of weeks ago, and they've run out of gas a little bit. Lost big at Utah, lose again this past week at home to Arizona at 9-1. BYU still in the middle of the playoff chase for sure. Got more to play for. They've already won some road games at places like Arizona, Iowa State, and East Carolina. So my leans to the Cougars as well. They just seem to do, sometimes they kind of do it with smoke and mirrors. It seems like maybe don't win the statistical battle, but they take care of the football. They play solid defense, and I think Sataki is an underrated head coach as well. I think he's really developed. I think he does a good job. I think BYU is probably the pick here as well.
A few years ago, Halani Sataki was, fighting for his job
Mhm.
too, and so he's done a real good job, and just in all their sports. I mean, they had a heck of a basketball season. They're first in the Big 12, so they're handling this move into the Big 12 out of independent status so pretty well. Rarely, Paul, do we talk about cosmetic influences on things, but sometimes this tells you, and you talk about being a tough guy and you win over your locker room, you win over your huddle when you take on a tackler as a running quarterback as opposed to if the play is peeled back and that all of a sudden that quarterback throws a block to help spring a ball carrier. But number 47, okay, this is an era where we see defensive linemen with single digits and things like single digits for the young players now are sort of a status symbol. But 47, if I got a 47 on a roster, he's going to be a fullback, a tight end, an H-back, okay, all which require a low level of physicality. He ain't worried about the status symbol of a single digit. He's not. He's giving you 47. He's letting you know I'm not sliding. I'm taking you on. So sometimes the cosmetic things kind of send that little message. But for a young quarterback trying to win over the locker room, I asked Joe Burrow personally in SEC media days between his first and second year of going to because he grew up in a family where he was supposed to be a defensive player. So he said, would you just take on opposing tacklers on purpose just to try and win over your locker room? I said, absolutely. Absolutely. So Bear Bachmar, kind of little Haynes King in him, maybe, Paul? Huh? I mean, these guys go run behind their pads as a quarterback. For Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott, each and every Tuesday and Thursday right here on College Sports Rush YouTube channel, brought to you by Bet Rivers. Good luck to you.